Cooper Flagg made his debut at Summer League, and it was just okay? Is that okay? Jalen Williams is feeling more than okay after signing a max deal from OKC. Giannis responds to a question about his future in Milwaukee. Did he keep it a buck about staying with the Bucks? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account today, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt, someone last night scored on their own basket in Summer League. Have you ever done this, metaphorically or otherwise?
I have done it. I have unfortunately done it in my very early days when I was playing and got very flustered one time. I just was absolutely getting hacked. I was getting fouled, by the way, but I definitely put up an offensive putback that was on the other opponent.
Oh, that's a foul way away from the basket. That must have really flustered you. Let's see. From the Locked On Rockets podcast, we've got Jackson Gatlin. Jackson, I know that Adam Silver wants the NBA to be more like soccer, but I don't think introducing own goals is what he meant.
Look, the real question is, is that 2 points for you? Do you deduct 2 points? Like, how does the official scorekeeper actually have to put that down? Because I want this stat to be tracked moving forward in the NBA.
Exactly. I want to obsess about Summer League stats, and that's going to be the theme of this first segment. Cooper Flagg, he didn't score on his own bucket, but the number one overall pick in this year's draft did have a tough time scoring on the one he was supposed to score on. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Here's Locked On Mavs with more on Cooper's debut.
5 of 21. I think that's the thing that's going to hit a lot of headlines. They're going to be really stupid headlines where it's going to be like Cooper Flagg, 5 of 21, inefficient shooter, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Cooper Flagg even said himself after the game, not up to my standards, but I'm going to be all right. And I think that's the thing about him is that I liked the shots that he took. It showed off the arsenal of how many different types of shots he can get to.
He played over 30 minutes in this game, which is a decent amount for a Summer League game. And what do you want from the number one overall pick? You want him to go out and just start taking shots left and right.
The Lakers pressured him when he had the ball every single time. It was as if if he got an inch of space, he was going to beat them. You know what I mean? And that
they watched Caruso and Dort in the finals, and they're like, dude,
we can do that.
That defense, nonstop. We can do it too.
That level of respect, and he only had one turnover in the game. All that pressure did not make him fold.
All right, Matt, thoughts on Cooper's first Summer League game, and the analysis there by Locked On Mavs. Is it in danger of doing a little Streisand effect here where you say the headline is stupid and you just kind of draw attention to the fact that he was 5 of 21 from the field?
Yeah, always trying to get ahead of the bad PR curve. That's Nick Angstadt. I don't necessarily mind the 5 of 21 given how the roster is kind of constructed, right? And it's good for him to get shots now because he's not going to get a lot during the season with Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell and all these other veterans that are actually in their careers. I think it might be hard sometimes for Cooper not to get lost in the shuffle. I liked the defensive stuff. I liked his playmaking, 4 dimes. Thought that was good. Don't mind most of the shots that he took, kind of as Nick kind of referred to there. This is mostly a vehicle for him to showcase. And this happens a lot where I think that the number one pick comes out and is a little nervous because it's your first time in this uniform. You also haven't. I always think of Cooper as a guy that's going to play best inside of a team construct. And Summer League is not a team construct. It's like 15 dudes that were thrown into a gym 5 days ago. So I'm not necessarily worried about any of this. I thought it was an okay debut. I'm sure he'll have a great performance in one of these games that we'll all ooh and ah over.
He certainly felt, to me, a little bit sped up, like a little bit just, okay, this is my first game. It's my debut as a Maverick. And here's what I'm going to try and do. And obviously with the Maverick, or with the defense that he was dealing with the Lakers, then sending two to the ball so constantly, that was a little bit of added pressure. They go into it with this idea that they want the ball in Cooper's hands. So he was in charge of, trying to orchestrate some offense. I didn't really take an issue with, I guess, some of the shots that he was taking. The biggest issue for me was him getting absolutely clamped at times by Bronny James. Like, what was that about? Cooper Flagg, you are 6'8", 230, 225, whatever you are. Like, he should have been going to town in that matchup. And that was maybe the bigger concern for me. Not because, you'll have games where you're going to miss shots, you make shots, whatever. But the process by which he got, I'm not going to say shut down by Bronny James, but Bronny James made life really difficult for Cooper Flagg, giving up all of 4 or 5 inches and however much weight in that matchup. That shouldn't have happened.
I get it, Jackson, but you got to remember that Bronny is playing with a lot more motivation here. He's got to showcase himself for the Cavaliers. So he's got a lot more on the line.
God.
For him.
You had me. You drew me. So most of the time,
he had us in the first half.
He did. Most of the time, I'm on to Matt's game. That time, he really sold it. I appreciated that. All right, Cooper Flagg's his game may have been uneven, but there was another far less known rookie who did show out. You have to go all the way down to the 17th overall pick by the Minnesota Timberwolves to find Johan Beranger, but he was very noticeable in Vegas. Here's Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon with more.
I don't remember the last time that a Timberwolves rookie has looked this good in their first taste of pro action. Jean Beranger was fantastic in this game and exhibited everything that the Timberwolves were hoping that they would get out of him as an 18-year-old. His line, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 6 blocks, and I swear he had 8 blocks in this game. For an 18-year-old that has only played for 4 years to have the feel and the timing and the understanding of spacing, and I can't go too early or I'm going to clog the paint for the driver, and if I go too late, the window's not there, and the ball handler can get double teamed, and I'm stuck under the basket, and there's no angle to get me the pass. To understand that all of that, the rhythm of that play from the dunker, it's not an ultra complicated concept, but for him to show the poise and the understanding, the confidence to do it immediately is so impressive.
What I love about Ben's analysis there is how far he leans into how impressive the day one Summer League performance is, because on Locked On Hornets, I always talk about this. Summer is for feelings. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to get way up into our feelings when we see particularly a good performance. Jackson, who are you in your feelings about when you watched day one of Summer League? Who stood out to you?
Day one of Summer League, honestly, I really walked away both impressed and also very disappointed for the other 29 teams in the association. Nikola Topic, with the Thunder, just his playmaking, the way that he looked out there, orchestrating that offense, finding guys, making plays, for a Thunder team that so heavily relies on SGA and J-Dub as their two primary playmakers, having this guy, missed all of last season, getting to reintroduce him now, first taste of him here in Summer League, and then, being able to build up his value and potentially have him, as a guy that you roll into the rotation as early as next season to kind of alleviate some of that playmaking pressure off of guys like SGA and J-Dub. I think that's going to be a monumental get for this Thunder team, a Thunder team that is fresh off a title run, and they're going to just keep getting better with all these other young guys.
I'm curious. Topic had a lot of concerns coming out of the draft, not only from the injury standpoint, shooting was also a concern. And I think in Summer League, it's easier for him to kind of hide those things because nobody else can pass. Nobody else can pass. And so it's easy to kind of look in those situations. So I'm not getting too caught up in the Topic hype yet. Maybe he'll come out and just dominate and win Rookie of the Year. The two guys for me actually weren't rookies. It's Terrence Shannon Jr. out of the Wolves, who love seeing a guy like this come in there and be like, I'm too good for Summer League. I love seeing guys do this, where they're like, nope, you don't have to worry about me. You don't need me to develop anything more. I've done all I can do here. All I can do is get better in the NBA. Love seeing that from him. Look out for David Jones-Garcia from the Spurs. Great, phenomenal performance when he was out in the California Classic, and he's carrying it over into Summer League in Vegas. This guy played ball at St. John's and DePaul. This is the exact type of player the Spurs find, develop, and get better. He played for the Mexico City Capitanes in the G League last year. I love G League stories like this. The Spurs have found rotation guys in Summer League. They are one of the few organizations that can assess and put talent in the right positions to prove it in Summer League, and then it translates. There are examples of guys making the roster and impacting the season that they find in Summer League, and I think this is one of them. David Jones Garcia, start learning that name.
I think there were a lot of names that I saw on day one that I think people are going to have to learn about. And this is something, Matt, you mentioned to me off air. Not a lot of sophomores in Summer League this season. Do you have any speculation as to why that is?
I think because the ones that looked good enough from last year's class don't need to play. And then all the rest of them honestly might not be NBA players. That's how bad last year's draft class was. And that makes me sad. But it is a little bit surprising when you look at kind of the names that are on the notable names at Summer League this year. It's a very short list outside of the rookies.
Jackson,
you still have Reed Shepherd in there in the mix. And, obviously he didn't have, I got worried. Matt goes, they might not be NBA players. I'm like, please don't let that be the case for the Rockets. But you got Reed Shepherd, you got Alex Sarr in the mix out there. I mean, look, it's one of those things where if you come back for your second Summer League, after 1 year of NBA experience, you should be the best player on the floor, right? Like that's the goal, is if you walk out there in Summer League with a bunch of fringe NBA guys, fresh faced rookies, fresh out of the NBA draft, you should look like the best player for your team on the floor. And if you don't, that is certainly, I think, a cause for concern. And that's maybe one of the things that you can take away from Summer League outside of just the catching feelings for a certain player, the emotions, like you said, Doug.
I'm really curious to see how Miles Buzelis looks today, because I would love for that kid to come out and just look like better than absolutely everybody else. He should not be here. So I'm hopeful that he and a number of other guys, including Doug, I would love to see something out of Tijan Salon as well, just to be like, I love Salon as a prospect, and I would just like to see him be like, okay, all right, we can take a breath. He's going to be an NBA player. Would like to see that at Summer League.
Me too. Very quickly, Bronny James, does he look like the best player on his Lakers Summer League team? Matt.
No, Cole Swider. I think Cole Swider looks absolutely terrific. He was great in the California Classic. I thought he was great last night. Bronny's fine. I think Cole Swider, though, is actually going to be an NBA rotation player.
Jackson.
I'm still going to give the edge to Dalton Connect. He's struggled a little bit, but I think Dalton Connect is a better overall player than Cole Swider will ever be.
All right, summer is for feelings. Preseason is for reason. Get into your feelings and into our comments, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Coming up on Locked On NBA, we are moving on from Summer League, and we are going to be talking about Jalen Williams signing a max contract for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Giannis Antetokounmpo on a YouTube live stream gives a response to whether or not he will be back in Milwaukee next season. That's all ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We've all been there, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to miss out on the show that you've been dying to see. Buying tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets fast, easy, and affordable. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime. It usually doesn't work like that. And you can save up to 60% with their last-minute deals. Plus, their zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. No more endless scrolling. You'll even get a panoramic seat view before you buy so that you know exactly what you're getting. And the best part, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Our max contract of the day goes to Jalen Williams. Congratulations. The Thunder complete their trifecta of deals, and Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder says these deals are not just about the Thunder's present and the Thunder's future, but also about the past as well.
Thunder officially now will not have to relive the drama, the heartbreak, and the narrative surrounding that James Harden trade. There's no player option, no team option in this contract. I think with J-Dub, when you're looking at the investment into him as a player, You have to talk about the future for him, not just the present. The present is still good. Like what J-Dub is presently is an all-NBA player, an all-defensive player, an all-star, and a number 2 option on a title team who scored 40 points in the finals. That's what he is current day. And the beauty of this contract for the Thunder and for J-Dub himself is that current day perhaps will be the worst version of himself through the life of this contract. If the Thunder didn't pay one of these big 3 guys and they didn't keep this top 3 together, then the Thunder would spend the summer being a laughing stock of like, oh, it's happening again. You didn't learn your lessons from the James Harden stuff.
All right, I saw both of you physically react to Rylan Stiles saying basically like, all right, we got it sewed up. No, we don't have to worry about the James Harden thing again. Jackson, what do you think about his take there?
It's sewed up for now. Like, okay, great. You sign him to a contract. Awesome. And you'll have these, 3 guys together for at least, on paper, the next couple years before anything starts to come by the way of, the second apron and fleshing out the other 12 spots on the roster. But that's the issue, is how many times have we seen now a team, in the modern NBA, so the last, we'll say 15, 20 years, try to formulate a big 3 and then not be able to put the subsequent parts around that big 3 to be able to really contend at a high level. Now, this isn't some, group of over the hill 30-year-olds that, are all teaming up to form a super team. It's a bunch of young, blossoming all-star, all-NBA caliber players, and they're fresh off their first title run. This does have the makings of a future dynasty, but with where things are headed, with the salary cap implications and the fact that they're going to be on paper the first year that all of these extensions hit the books, that's what, 160 million across 3 players, 165 million across 3 players. I just don't know if this situation is going to truly be tenable in the long term. And so eventually I kind of feel like the Thunder are going to be forced to choose between one of J-Dub or Chet Holmgren.
There's a lot of straw manning going around. If you suggest any sort of like resistance to the idea that well, it's Jover, Thunder going to win the next 4 titles. Like there's just like a lot of straw manning of, if you have any hesitation to that idea that you're being some sort of alarmist or not being realistic. They've managed the books very well. 2026, they're going to be 8.5 million under the first apron. That's ridiculous with, by the way, the talent that they have. Second year, they're going to be 37 million over the first apron. That's going to be a second apron team in 2027. 2028, it reverts back, and they're not going to have enough guys on roster, but they will have, if they can build up through the minimum guys. Right now, they're still projected, depending on what they're going to have, they're still projected for 6 million in apron space for the first apron. This, to me, there's 2 questions here. Do you really believe that they're going to consistently just find rookies with their picks, non-top 5 picks? They can be good picks, but not top 5 picks that are going to be able to replace the production. Like, do we really think that Thomas Sorber is just going to instantly fill in for Isaiah Hartenstein, who has been one of the best centers in the NBA? Do we just instantly think that Nikola Topic is just going to take over and fill in these spots and not just be like a pretty good point guard? Like, you have to believe that they will consistently keep this up. The other thing here has got nothing to do with the money, and it's got everything to do with ego. I think the window's open through 2028. I think after that, like, they can win 2 out of 3. I think winning 2 in a row is very difficult, and we've seen that consistently. But I think that they can win 2 out of 3. After that is where I think it's difficult. But if you win 2 out of 3, who cares? You won 2 out of 3 championships. That's awesome. I am just not sold, Doug, on this idea of how, I don't know why it is that NBA intelligentsia is so devoted to absolutely throwing rocks at anybody who suggests that the Thunder aren't going to rattle off 4 titles.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've seen a little bit of the other side of that, where I feel like some people have been too quick to worry about the Thunder making all of these deals. I just feel like some people have been traumatized by this era of players forcing their way out and all of these super teams dramatically flaming out, that like we struggle to believe at all. Some people do. Some people struggle to believe that OKC could be the exception to the rule. They could find their way through the wilderness of the second apron. And does it all have to rely on rookies? I mean, is there possibly another way for them to make this all work?
I mean, you're gonna have,
right? Like,
well, no, because they'll still have if they're under the apron, they'll still have the MLE, right? So they'll be able to add like a handful of veterans. The question, I think, a lot of this though is going to like this is where you're going to get into. It is different trying to handle a big tax bill in OKC than it is in Denver. And if you're like, boo hoo, rich man has to, yeah, but I'm just telling you that Bennett's going to look at that. Like their ownership group will look at that. They have always managed to win while not spending. And the CBA was in large part built with that in mind, is that you need to be able to win without spending. But OKC is so good, they have to pay these guys. And that's where I think this gets complicated. So we'll see what happens here. My only thing, Doug, is just not that they're screwed, just life finds a way to screw with great NBA teams. We've seen plot twists consistently. I'm not ready to say that the Thunder are the exception to that maxim.
I'll tell you what they won't be able to do. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to do what they did this past season and what they might be able to do for the next year or two with their historic swarming defense by signing a bunch of vet minimum older guys who are not going to be able to keep up that type of defensive intensity and pressure over the course of an 82-game season, as well as a 16-game title run. That's not happening, right? So not only just the individual drop off from like the actual talent level of some of these players, like Isaiah Hartenstein to Sorber, that kind of thing, right? Talking about trying to plug and play other young guys and replace them, but just talking about trying to field a roster somewhere down the line 2-3 years from now of 5, 6, 7 different vet minimum guys, because you just don't have the money elsewhere.
The good news, though, is that even if things were to absolutely fall apart and everything just goes to pot, they will still rebuild faster and win a championship before the Houston Rockets win their next one.
Oh man, I better hope the Rockets win a title this next season, or I'm gonna be in for a world of hurt.
I think, and maybe we can talk about this on a future show, it feels like it puts an immense amount of pressure on this particular Thunder team to repeat, to prove the concept.
Yes.
And we saw that they had a lot of pressure this past season, this past finals, to prove that, hey, all right, we won a bunch of regular season games. We won't commit the same sins we did last season. And they didn't buckle. They won the title, but it certainly seemed for a minute there with the Pacers that they were feeling some of that heat. And so now I think it's going to and the Nuggets. And now it seems like it's going to be even more ratcheted up to prove that that it's worth seeing that experiment out. Okay, coming up on Locked On NBA, we've got a lot more to get to. Giannis Antetokounmpo was on a YouTube live stream and had a very interesting response to whether or not he would be staying in Milwaukee. It's the 15th anniversary of a day that may have changed the NBA, certainly still today, maybe forever. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. It is July, and in today's NBA, that means all of your favorite stars are making the rounds with their favorite streamers. Giannis Antetokounmpo was on iShowSpeed's YouTube live stream and was asked about staying in Milwaukee. Here's Locked On Bucks with his reply and their take.
He gave a very honest answer where he paused, kind of, yeah, probably. We'll see, he threw in there, but he did add at the end, I love Milwaukee. I take that as the city and the community. I don't take it as a definitive one way or another. This is Giannis announcing his loyalty, or this is Giannis really saying, I don't know, maybe I'm going to leave. I think this is more of Giannis just doing what superstars will do. And one of the cards you have to play to keep the pressure on the organization to say, yeah, I'll probably stay. I like what you've done so far. Keep doing it.
He wasn't even looking at the camera when he was looking off into the distance. He had his hand on his chin. He's like, yeah, probably, and he looks off, and it's like, watching it, I had to laugh because I was like, Giannis loves the troll a bit. And I took it the way you did, where it's like, it's not definitive, like I'm here forever, but it's at least probably, I love Milwaukee. We'll see what happens.
And so you heard Justin there at the beginning say that it was a very Giannis answer. Matt, was it a Giannis answer or an honest answer?
I think both. I think it was, he knows what he's doing. He's not going to get nailed into any sort of parameter here. Like, he's not going to commit himself to saying anything. And I'll honestly credit him with this, because I've seen a lot of players make this mistake of like, I want to be here forever. 2 seasons later, so-and-so has demanded a trade. Like, I think it's better to leave your options open. And one of the things I do think is going to be rough, though, if he never reaches a point where he's like, all right, I made my decision. I want to retire here. We're done. I'm good. If you never clear that up, the team remains in limbo, and that infects a locker room. Like it just weighs over the team of not knowing it. You need to have that kind of certainty from your number one guy. I don't think it's healthy for it to be. I mean, Jackson, you saw this in that James Harden year before he was out, when it was like, that was a bad situation. Now, I don't think Giannis is going to quit the way that Harden did, but I think it's not a good situation to go into the season when your superstar is kind of like, yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's good.
No, it's messy, right? And you don't want things to be messy like that. Credit to Giannis for kind of skirting the question in I guess the best way possible by kind of, straddling the fence and not really giving like a, this way or that way kind of answer. But like, unfortunately, this isn't the first time that Giannis has been a little wishy-washy, right, about his future in Milwaukee. And at some point, right, you've got to wonder for Bucks fans and just, fans of basketball around the NBA, like, okay, well, what is the situation, right? Is Giannis just going to keep kind of toying with their emotions? Is he bought in? Does he actually want to be there long-term? Or is the trade demand going to, suddenly show up on, the Bucks front office's desk, 6 months from now, a year from now? When is it going to be? It kind of feels like the writing is on the wall for the Bucks because in what world are you going to be a contender, a legitimate contender with Damian Lillard's dead cap hit on the books for the next 5 years of $23 million? Like, that's just ridiculous.
All right, so Giannis needing to make a decision. This week marked the 15th anniversary of the decision when LeBron announced live on ESPN that he would be joining up with the Miami Heat. Locked On Heat devoted an entire episode today to how that moment changed the Heat and the NBA in ways that are still being felt today.
The decision was when we moved into an NBA world, for better or for worse, doesn't matter, not judging it. But we moved into an NBA world where player movement was now a bigger deal than championships, because you were talking about your reaction to LeBron deciding to play for the Miami Heat is the same reaction that you have at the final buzzer of winning a championship. It's the same exact reaction. It's pots and pans. It's the same reaction. And when LeBron made that decision, it felt like we had won a championship. It felt like we had won something. You win the lottery, you win a champion, something. It felt like you had won something. And I think ever since then, fan bases have been chasing that high, whether it's, we're the team that just got Kevin Durant. We're the team that just got James Harden. We're the team that just got that. Heat fans have been chasing that high forever. We just got Jimmy Butler. You're always chasing that high of what superstar are we going to get next, because it feels like a monumental win. It's something that you talk about.
All right, Jackson, what do you remember about the decision at the time? Do you think we are still dealing with the ripple effects from it today?
Doug, you can't go to Jackson first. You cannot go to somebody who was.
I know. I knew you were going to say something. You
can't go to somebody. You can't go to somebody who was a newborn when this happened.
There it is. There. I wondered how deep into the
Doug tried to get me.
Doug
has steered me away from making young jokes at Jackson this whole episode.
I mean, we should have gone to Matt first, because him hanging out in the old folks' home, while watching the decision would have been awesome to hear about what that experience was like around a bunch of other octogenarians. So there we go. Look, I remember hating it, honestly. I remember really disliking LeBron for a very long time. Like, I loved LeBron on the Cavs. I was so disappointed that he chose to leave, and this whole spectacle of the decision, I remember really disliking it. I was like, this is the most pompous, ego-driven, what are you doing, man? Just pick your next team. Who cares? I know you're LeBron James, the greatest player on the planet. This is ridiculous. And so that's what I remember about it. And it took me, honestly, personally, it took me a while to see LeBron in a different light after the decision. I could not get over it for a while. And then as far as the ripple effects, I mean, we're very much still alive and well in this player empowerment era, right? Where players have so much weight that they can throw around, so much say about where they ultimately go, what their futures hold, what teams they'll ultimately play for. And I do think that, as Wes mentioned, right, chasing that high of signing a star player like that, we just see that so less often with today's CBA, because players are incentivized to sign their contracts, to sign for the big money. And then even if you don't like the situation you're in, you just sign the contract and they demand a trade, 6 months later, a year later, whatever it is. And so we haven't seen, I think a significant like marquee, like really like superstar signing. We had LeBron, we had KD to the Warriors, which is a rare exception with the cap spike. I don't know if we'll ever see another iteration that's as monumental as the decision was.
I don't think we'll ever see one as the decision, just because LeBron was such a name. Like, it was just the biggest thing in the world. There's so many weird things about that entire thing. Let's do it at a boys and girls club. That will soften the blow. We'll have all these kids just like hanging out behind him. Let's do like a 30-minute special of like an interview instead of just getting to the actual meat of the thing. The way that he phrased it, I'm taking my talents to Miami. Iconic in terms of being, mocked and duplicated afterwards. Jim Gray being the guy to do it was such a, like, the story behind that is one you should look up sometime for how Jim Gray managed to land that spot. I always wonder what Clutch would have done, how Clutch would have presented this, who they would have partnered with. All those things I think are really interesting to kind of think about in like the modern context. I think we'll probably see something like it again at some point. I do think that the backlash from it was so severe that I don't think you'll ever see a announcement that is that self-indulgent ever again, because it was trying very hard to be like, we're at the Boys and Girls Club and like, here's me about my life. And it was like, it just seemed seemed more self-indulgent in trying to hide that self-indulgence. And then the other thing I'll remember from the decision is their introductory quote unquote press conference, which was held at the Miami Arena, where they come out to smoke to pyro and then do the not 3, not 4, not 5. Incredible. Just amazing theater. I miss those days.
Yes, I remember the silence after he said it. Like, if this did happen today, it would be more of a spectacle, more of a just you would have everything nailed down to the T. Like, this is going to happen. This is going to be pre-planned. And I think maybe some of the sort of ripple effects of that television event probably we're feeling that in the way these things are presented. Now, speaking of LeBron James changing teams, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not he's going to remain with the Lakers. Ramona Shelburne has new reporting for ESPN that just came out, so we need to kind of dig into this. It's a long article, and we'll talk about it into next week. But Matt, have you been able to read any of it? What's the general vibe on this new reporting?
Ramona's excellent at telling the story behind the story. And one of the things that I think that this kind of illustrates is the way that Clutch is painting it is like, we didn't ask to leave. They left us. That's the way that this is being presented. And I think there's a little bit of an attempt to recapture control of the narrative and control over his future that's happening a little bit here. And I'm fascinated to see how it works out, given that, he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to retire as a Laker. The family wants to stay there. He's got business interests. It's better to play in LA. Nike probably is like, you cannot go anywhere else for your final season. All of this, I think, is fascinating to see how it's going to play out.
Jackson, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the LeBron situation, God, I don't know. It's tough because everybody knows, like Matt already illustrated, right? He wants to finish the season, his career there. He wants to be there. But obviously it's kind of like the Lakers are starting to maybe realize that they need to prioritize the post LeBron era, right? And they need to not let him have this, ironclad grip over, decisions that the franchise makes, or roster changes, or competing in the here and now and sacrificing their long-term ability to compete. And once you have Luka Doncic in hand, it's kind of like, well, maybe it is time to start prioritizing the future. So I don't blame the Lakers for handling things the way they've handled them so far.
Okay, it is Friday, and we've had a lot of things going on with free agency and all of the offseason noise that we haven't done this segment in a while, but it was a weekly recurring segment for us. It's called Favorite Things of the Week. It's our way of wrapping up the week that was in the NBA. Jackson, you are not normally on this program. You are doing Locked On Rockets and Locked On Game Night, so you are our guest. That means you get to go first in Favorite Things of the Week. What was your favorite thing of the week?
My favorite thing of the week was an interview that was conducted with Boston Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla, in which he was reminiscing about, I guess, he basically had this business idea about starting, essentially, he goes, have you guys heard of escape rooms? He's like, I want to do a situation room where you can relive certain situations that have happened. And he likens it to the raid on Osama bin Laden, that he would love to relive that experience. And if that is not just the amount of Joe Mazzulla lore that we have, like with him watching The Town X number of times a week, and now this little tidbit, and so many other stories about Joe Mazzulla. Like, I don't know, man. This guy is just, if he wasn't an NBA head coach, he might be in an insane asylum somewhere. Genuinely. Like, he's a very, very interesting human being. And I'll leave it at that. But I loved hearing that interview, and just Joe Mazzulla continues to just add to his ridiculous lore.
He is a constant presence on Favorite Things of the Week. In fact, I think he may be the mascot of Favorite Things of the Week. And I'm only 98% sure that Joe Mazzulla is not a Sacha Baron Cohen character. Like, that he's just not going to rip off the mask one day. And it's been Borat all along. Matt, your favorite thing of the week?
NBA in-season tournament groups released. That's amazing. I love doing this. I love breaking it down, thinking about who's going to win this thing, who's going to have the motivation to win. I'm an in-season tournament sicko, so I love seeing those things get put out.
Group of Death, you got one?
The West Group B is absolutely a nightmare. It's absolutely horrendous.
It's the Lakers, Clippers. Who else is that?
Grizzlies, Mavericks, Pelicans.
Yeah,
that one's
your nightmare group, really? Okay.
It's not like the toughest one, but that was the one where you're like, who's going to win this thing? If you want to know, actually, like the one that's probably the toughest, it's actually probably East Group A. You got Cleveland, Indiana, Atlanta, Toronto, and Washington, and obviously, Washington's going to be in the mix.
Oh my God. Group of Death, Jackson. I didn't know you guys wanted to talk NBA Cup. I bumped it. I was going to talk about it today, but there were a lot of other things that I thought you'd be more interested in. You guys are chewing into it right here at the end of the show.
West Group C, man. Matt showing disrespect to the Nuggets once again in his career. Look, Rockets, Nuggets, Warriors, Spurs, who are going to be a lot better this next season, and the Blazers, who were only a handful of games out of being a play-in tournament team this past year. I don't know how you don't look at that group and see that as the group of death of all 6 of these groups.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On NBA. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts. That includes YouTube. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Jackson for sitting in for Hayes. Hayes will be back next week. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On NBA Game Night. It's every Summer League game every night, and it's on this feed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Enjoy today's Summer League action. Be kind to each other. We'll see you back here next week on Locked On NBA.